What do you get when you cross a mentally ill loser with a society that abandons him and treats him like trash? I can't say that on air. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Real Talk. I'm your host, Andrew Vick, and of course, I am delighted to be here as always. I apologize for last time. We have the mug now. It is always important to have the special Real Talk mug. I love this thing so much. It's full of air. There's nothing in it. But, nevertheless, it is time for a fun episode. We've got lots and lots of clown-related themes, and of course, starting off with what's poppin', as always, we've got the domestic box office. So, starting off at number 1 is the second weekend running of Joker, and it is still going really, really strong at the domestic box office. $55.8 million, I believe. Total with domestic and international gross, it has grossed over $500 million. That is amazing, and we will talk more about the Joker later. Quite a lot, actually. At number 2, we've got The Addams Family opened up last weekend. This is the animated remake of the classic black and white show, opened at $30.3 million. I have not seen The Addams Family, though I haven't heard good things about it, though, which is unfortunate. Such a classic show, just not doing so hot anymore. At number 3, we've got Gemini Man. This is the Will Smith movie about him fighting his clone. Also apparently getting really bad reviews. You know, I actually heard that in international theaters, they run this film at 120 frames per second. And that's honestly ridiculous. American theaters, they run at only 24 frames per second. And I can't even imagine what 120 frames per second in a film would even look like. But anyways, following that up, at number 4, we got Abominable. This is, of course, the DreamWorks movie that came out recently that a lot of people kind of forgot about. Nothing too special about it. And at number 5, still holding on from the beginning of September, the Downton Abbey movie is holding on at number 5 with $4.8 million at the domestic box office. This is actually kind of surprising, really. It opened at the beginning of September, I think the same weekend as It Chapter 2, and yet domestically it's held on a lot longer than It Chapter 2 for some reason. I don't know why. It might be gone next time, but we'll just have to wait and see. Now, on to our first piece of news. Jared Leto is sad. Aww. What a sad little baby. So, report came out recently that Jared Leto was apparently isolated and upset when he found out about the new Joker movie that came out recently, and he was not going to be involved in it whatsoever. I could kind of understand it, because, you were the Joker for a little bit, and now you're not. But then again, feeling isolated and upset, that's probably how your cast members felt when you sent them dead rats. So, sucks to be you, Jared. See ya next time. Maybe not. Maybe later. I think you're fired. But anyways, yesterday, the next piece of news, Disney Plus announced on Twitter pretty much its entire catalog that it's going to open up with on day 1. This was a tweet chain that was several hundred tweets long. They had a tweet for every single individual thing that was coming onto the service, and I swear to God, it took me 15 minutes to read that. Of course, they are bringing on classic films like Snow White, Cinderella, Little Mermaid, all the classic 2D films. They're also bringing in a bunch of the old live-action movies. I believe Old Yeller is going to be on there. The Pirates of the Caribbean movies, I assume, are going to be on there. And a few other interesting exclusions were on this. A lot of the Marvel movies actually aren't going to be on Disney Plus. I assume this is because they still partially have a deal with Netflix that's probably going to run out by the end of the year, because a lot of their movies are on there. Guardians Volume 2, Avengers Infinity War, and I believe Ant-Man and the Wasp are all on there, among others. But I assume once the contract runs out with them, they will be moved on to Disney Plus. Some of the Star Wars movies have also been excluded. Of course, they have the original trilogy and the prequel trilogy, and the service is also getting the Clone Wars TV show, which I'm really excited for Season 7, along with the Clone Wars movie. They are also adding The Force Awakens, but distinctly not The Last Jedi, but I assume that's also because of the Netflix deal, because Star Wars The Last Jedi is on Netflix right now. But I presume once that ends, it's going to move over to Disney+, and eventually Rise of Skywalker and Captain Marvel, among others, are going to be moved on to the list. Some other notable exclusions were quite a lot of the Fox properties. If I'm not mistaken, in that entire list, none of like the X-Men movies or Avatar or Alien, like all of the Fox properties, I didn't see a lot of them on there, but somehow Garfield: A Tale of Two Kitties was on there. I swear to God, I saw Garfield: A Tale of Two Kitties. I don't know why. But that's going to be pretty exciting. I believe it opens up in November, a new streaming service. I might check it out. Who knows? And for our last piece of major news, Knives Out, the upcoming whodunit movie directed by Rian Johnson, is actually going to get a 2-day release a week early. So initially the film is going to be opening the weekend of November 30th, but it was announced that it will be coming out a week early for 2 days early, November 22nd and November 23rd, and it'll just be released to the public for just 2 days only before its regular week release. And you know, I'm actually kind of pretty excited for it. Knives Out is one of those indie films I'm really excited about because it just looks so stylized and cool, and it's got like this huge ensemble cast, but of course that's proven me wrong before, Lion King. But I'm very excited for it. I don't believe it's Rian Johnson's fault for what happened in The Last Jedi. He's a phenomenal director, and I assume this is probably going to be pretty good. I am very excited for it. Now, normally, we would move on to the trailer recap, but I'm doing something a little special. Because, you know, this is a Joker-themed episode, as some of you might be aware. We're going to be talking about Joker later with my friend Joel, but I've got a bone to pick with someone, and that someone is Dr. Harleen Quinzel. Now, a couple weeks ago, when we recorded the last episode on that day, the trailer for Birds of Prey and the Fantabulous Emancipation of One Harleen Quinn was released. Now, I decided to not include that in my trailer recap because it was already kind of full, and I kind of didn't want to talk about it. But over the 2 weeks since the last episode, it's digested with me. And I gotta say, I've got a few things to say. For one, I'm not excited for this. I mean, I have a few reasons. Mostly, like, trailers can be deceptive. They always try to show, like, the best stuff. Like, remember a few years ago when that Bohemian Rhapsody trailer for Suicide Squad came out? And a lot of us were kind of tricked into thinking that movie was going to be amazing instead of the garbage pile it actually was. And that's kind of giving me those vibes. I mean, Margot Robbie has returned to the role of Harley Quinn, so this is obviously in the same universe line as Suicide Squad. I don't know. The DC universe is kind of messed up right now. We don't know where a lot of things stand right now, but it feels like in the same vein as Suicide Squad. And I really, really don't like Suicide Squad. And I'm very afraid that it's going to be a lot like Suicide Squad. Also, they really should have just called this movie, like, Harley Quinn. Like, if it was just called, like, a Harley Quinn solo movie, that'd be fine. I'd be cool with that. But it's called Birds of Prey. This movie should obviously be about the Birds of Prey, a comic group that is pretty popular in DC, and it's a group that Harley Quinn isn't even a part of in the comics. She's not part of the Birds of Prey. They practically just made her invade this movie and just to make it her own solo movie, but they're calling it Birds of Prey for some reason. I mean, I guess a few members are on there. I believe Black Canary and Huntress are on there, not Oracle/Batgirl. But it's very bizarre to me why they would do this. Just call it Birds of Prey when if it were a Harley Quinn solo movie, it would have been fine. If they sort of went the route of like Deadpool 2, where it was totally a complete Deadpool movie, but they just happened to have a form of the X-Force in there. Like, that would have been totally fine, but the naming about it just is a little iffy with me. And also, something I really, really need to point out. The costume design in this movie looks terrible. I mean, all of these classic DC characters have their costumes right there out in the open, and yet for some reason, they don't want to use them at all. I mean, think about Aquaman looks cool. Wonder Woman looks cool. Shazam even looks cool. It's obviously a rubber suit in Shazam, but he looks cool. Wonder Woman looks cool. Aquaman looks cool. They all look cool, and they're like near comic accurate costumes. They look awesome. But for some reason, a lot of these like Suicide Squad-esque DCEU movies like don't want that. They don't want the full comic booky look, which kind of messes with me. You know what? Actually, to prove my point, you're going to come here. You're going to come here with me. We're going to go over here. We're going to go look at the poster, all right? We're going to go look at the poster. Come here. All right, come on. Let's take a look here. Let's see the damage. And there you are. My goodness, this poster is a train wreck. Okay, obviously, to prove my point, Birds of Prey title right here. That's a whole lot of not Birds of Prey. That looks a lot like a Harley Quinn solo movie. That is not a Birds of Prey movie right there. Also, come on, guys. Why are there no shadows? Why are there no shadows on any of these guys? Like, I'm terrible at Photoshop, and I know this. Like, come on. This is ridiculous. Also, proving a point about the costumes, as I said before, who are any of these people? If you didn't know that was Harley Quinn, would you believe that was Harley Quinn? Who's that supposed to be? Is that Huntress? I don't know. Would you believe that's Black Mask? You're Black Masked. Are you? Your face is in a black mask. I don't even know if I pointed at the right character. Who are any of these people? This poster's a mess. This poster is a complete mess. I don't understand how they let this happen. I mean, what could be a worse poster? I can't even think of a worse poster right now. Someone could obviously put one up, but I don't know right now. How has this happened? Who let this happen? I'm calling the Hollywood police on you. This is all your fault. But I think that's enough ranting for me. If you will allow me just a minute here, I will give you a little intermission until the Joker reveals, so stick around. We'll be right back.
We promise to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, your sweet tooth. So visit our refreshment center now. Let's go!
How about a magic trick? I'm gonna make this pencil disappear. Ta-da! It's gone.
Oh, you can say that over the phone, Batman, but if I had you here, I'd pound you to a pulp.
Start pounding, Joker.
What do you want?
My face on the $1 bill.
It's not about money.
I'm crazy enough to take on Batman, but the IRS, no, thank you.
You are number one.
Yes, sir.
Let me introduce you to the new Joker.
Fun. Who's for Chinese?
And now, on with the show.
And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for allowing me this brief moment of pause to get set up. Now, this is going to be a lot of talking here because Joker came out a couple weeks ago. And by God, do I have a lot to talk about with Joker. So, in order to space out my discussion, here, my good friend, Joel Conte.
Hello, Andy.
Hello.
How's it going?
Oh, just swell. Thank you for being under the desk the entire time.
You got it.
I always appreciate when we have a spare guest under the desk.
I am glad to help.
So, obviously, to start off, Joker.
Phenomenal movie. I absolutely loved it. I saw it Friday night, the day it came out last week. Loved every minute of it. I honestly, as of right now, I don't have anything terrible to say about it. It's not a perfect movie, but I really enjoyed it.
I wholeheartedly agree with you, Joel. This was like a very phenomenal movie, and not just in like comic book movie terms. This was like just as a whole product. This was incredible. Let's start off with Joaquin Phoenix.
Oh yeah, Joaquin Phoenix absolutely nailed his performance.
He was somehow like disturbing, charming, funny, and scary all at the same time. He just brought this whole package together to create his own unique version of this character that, like, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just this huge melding of all these different Jokerish aspects, yet it's his own thing.
Right. The thing that really stuck out to me about his performance is you could tell without having to hear him speak what was going on. Like, it was actual acting to me, as opposed to just the cheesy dialogue or whatever, especially like some of the things you'll see in some of the more recent DCEU movies.
Oh, yeah.
It's, in my opinion, that is what should be defined as acting, and I think Joaquin Phoenix is one of the only people that could have nailed that role the way he did.
Oh, yeah. The entire movie is just completely from his perspective. I don't think there's like too many frames where he's not on screen, and your eyes are just instantly glued to him. You watch his every movement, especially multiple times when he just slowly breaks out into this like slow, disturbing dance that he does as he slowly descends into madness and becomes the psychotic clown that we all know, love, and hate all at the same time. Now, my question for you, where does he rank with the rest of them?
Well, personally, I don't think anything can do better than the Dark Knight right here. Heath Ledger's Joker is something that I don't think can be matched. But that's because of a lot of things that really can't be changed, especially with the Joker origin movie. The reason I appreciate Heath Ledger's performance so much is that you don't know where he's coming from. And if I had one legitimate gripe about this movie, Joker, it's the fact that it basically explains how the Joker came to be. And that's not necessarily something you want, because from all the other renditions, you don't actually know his backstory.
Except for Batman '89.
Fair enough. But, I mean, in most situations, you don't actually know where the Joker came from. And I personally really like that. It just gives him a little bit more of a mysterious aura about him, and you only know what you see in his actions. You don't really know anything about his past.
Oh, yeah. That's like a really fun aspect about the Joker, is like when you never know where he's coming from. But the way I saw it in this movie was just like this man just slowly losing everything that made him who he was and just leaving that all behind, sometimes viciously, and just adopting this new identity that is slowly like taken over him. Like, of course, I love Heath Ledger. He's an amazing Joker, although personally I prefer Mark Hamill from the animated series and the Arkham games. That is a top-notch Joker right there. But Joaquin Phoenix is really high up there, and there's so much about him that's like so much. I don't even know how to put it. It's like there's so much to think about with this Joker. Like, I mean, of course, we'll get into spoiler talk later, but just, man, there's so much to think about with this Joker.
Right, yeah. And I mean, most of the things that you need to think about are, I mean, again, this is getting into spoiler territory, so I'm not going to go too far, but there's a lot of things that just make you want to think about what he does as opposed to what he does. You're looking for more of a motive than anything else. And I really enjoyed seeing that, because Like you said, he slowly falls apart from the shreds of humanity that he had left.
Yeah, I remember sort of like going in thinking like, okay, so he's the Joker. We're going to get excited for the moment he snaps. But I felt like the entire time I never wanted him to snap. Like, I saw like some glimpse of hope out of him, and I was afraid for the moment he'd just like pull the trigger on who he used to be and just become the Joker. I was afraid of that moment, and that's not something I expected out of this. So I really love that. Also, a notable performance, Robert De Niro as the TV host Murray. Now, what did you think of him?
Well, I thought he embodied the talk show host persona quite well. He kind of showed the whole upper class mentality very well as well. I don't really have anything bad to say about him. I thought he was handled very well, and yeah.
Oh yeah, it was like Robert De Niro's character was sort of like a neat inversion of his role in The King of Comedy, in which this movie kind of borrows a lot from, where he's the little like lowly stalker guy trying to follow this TV host, but it's like an interesting inversion of that character where he is the TV host being followed by a different lowly stalker. I thought that was kind of interesting, and yeah, that was really, really fun. I liked him. I kind of saw a lot of like modern TV hosts by like the way he carried himself. Like I saw like a Stephen Colbert in him. I saw like surprisingly Jimmy Fallon, but it was like he sold himself as this TV host. Like I bought every minute of it.
Oh yeah, of course.
And that was some of the other like aspects of the film. Like this movie had like beautiful cinematography. Would you agree?
Oh, everything about the movie, in my opinion, is just absolutely beautifully put together. I think my favorite part is definitely the soundtrack.
Oh my God, yes.
When you're listening to the music, it's a lot of the time it's playing over everything else, and you almost can't hear anything else. And the way that it kind of makes it seem is that it's music playing in Arthur's head. And
that's interesting. I didn't think of it like that.
The way you think, it's like he hears nothing. It's just everything is numb to him. You can kind of tell that, especially in a couple of the scenes. For example, when he's going up the elevator next to the insane person that's making a huge ruckus and stuff like that. It's just he doesn't really care. He's lost in his own thoughts.
Yeah, he's like cut off, and all there is this music. I especially love the like sort of theme they give to him. I think they like play like a cello that sort of goes back and forth through this few notes, and it like sticks in my mind so hard. Like I can instantly hear that cello whenever I just see like an image of him, especially during like the whole scene in the bathroom, which I don't want to get too into, but when he's like slowly dancing and that cello sort of comes in, it just gave me chills. Like this was an amazing score. Like props to them for all of that.
Yeah, and one other thing that I really started to notice is in the scene where he's all dressed up and he's about to go over to the talk show, and you can hear I forget what the song. I think it's Gary Glitter, something like that.
Yeah,
It's
Gary.
by Gary
It's
Glitter.
Rock and Roll Part 2,
Rock
if I
and Roll
remember
Part
right.
2, that's correct. And like in
that's
that,
kind of been a controversial choice actually, because of Gary Glitter's past.
Okay, I mean, I can understand that, but I think that in a situation like that, like this, I mean, it's just they're looking for a specific situation, and I think that someone's past is, I'm willing to overlook someone's past for a specific feeling that they're trying to give you. In my opinion, I thought that was very excellently put in there because it kind of shows Arthur is confident about who he is now. He knows what he wants to do. He knows what he wants to be. And
yeah.
You can see that by when the music is playing and he's dancing on those stairs. And, I mean, again, the music completely cuts out when there are other people there watching him.
Oh, yeah.
Because I'm not sure if we can get into it yet, but there are people...
in another minute.
There are people watching him that see what is happening.
Yeah, I sort of how like the music sort of gets bigger and bigger as the movie goes on. Sort of like Arthur like his sort of posture, like at the beginning when he's walking home, he's sort of like slumped over, and he's obviously looks depressed. But by the end, the music's like big, loud, and bombastic, and he's just flowing so free in his like random dancing to not make that kind of pun, but like he just flows through it. He's like so much more sure of himself. Like he knows what he wants to be.
Right.
And unfortunately, it's the Joker.
And I mean, in my opinion, that's really not a bad thing. I mean, it's an origin story about him, and you hate to see what happened, but in the end, you kind of get this feeling like this is what these upper class, top 1% people deserve. Because, I mean, in a sense, don't get me wrong, I think that...
That line was almost a spoiler.
Almost.
Almost. We'll finish up your thought, and then we'll go right into spoilers.
But yes, I don't want to say anything else.
Nothing else? All right, so we're going to jump right into Joker spoilers. So if anyone in the studio plans on seeing Joker and doesn't want any sort of spoilers, please leave the studio right now. So now we're going right into spoilers. So where do we even begin with this? There's so much to discuss.
I'm just going to start off right with the plain and simple. I need to see the movie a couple more times because by the end of it, you can't tell what actually happened and what didn't.
Oh, yeah. I wholeheartedly agree with that. This is a movie you probably need to see multiple times to like get the bigger picture. Because personally, how much do you think how much of this do you think was real?
I personally think most of it was real. The relationship that he had with his neighbor, that was fake.
I mean, that was fake.
Established.
Like the director, like openly made that clear to the audience. None of that was real. Although I think where the reality stopped was like the first time in the elevator and when he followed her to her job. That I most definitely think was real. But then again, they also show the clips of like she wasn't actually there the whole time. He's just slowly going mad because he obviously like stopped taking his meds at some point because his therapy program was getting cut, and so he couldn't get access to his meds anymore. And that kind of hit me pretty hard. Just like this, it felt so real about like how like programs were getting cut and these lower class people couldn't get access to their kind of medications that they need to survive, and it just felt so real in that aspect. Of course, it's a comic book movie, but excuse me, that dose of reality just sort of enhanced all of it. Now, more different spoiler-ish topic. What did you think of the integration of the Wayne family?
I thought that it was probably the best way they could have integrated the Wayne family it was the best way they could have involved them with the story without making Bruce Wayne Batman.
Yeah, I feel that.
I am not sure how I feel about Thomas Wayne being murdered at the end. I feel like that since it was already... it's already known that happens. I didn't think needed to be shown.
Both the Wayne parents get banged off.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's sort of an interesting implication because, like, earlier in the film, like, Arthur kind of believes for a little bit that he's actually related to the Waynes, which for a while almost makes you think that Arthur is the half-brother of Bruce Wayne, and that alone is kind of an interesting concept. But they're also like, no, your mother is actually just a crazy stalker. So the movie just kind of throws you through all these hoops to like destroy Arthur's identity.
Yeah, and one thing that really stuck out to me, especially while I was watching the film, is you got to think, because I don't really know how old Arthur Fleck was portrayed to be, but he looks like he's kind of old.
Yeah, a little bit.
I don't think that it would make sense for Thomas Wayne to be the father in that kind of situation, because from his appearance in the movie, he looks like he's probably maybe 15 to 20 years younger than Thomas Wayne. And I'm not going to say that that doesn't happen. I'm just saying that Bruce Wayne is so much younger that it almost just doesn't make sense.
Just that little bit.
And I think that that's kind of plays into his insanity as well, because I'm not sure that somebody that was either had no mental illnesses or was on a medication, I'm under the impression that they would have seen that and realized that it's quite improbable.
Yeah, just a little bit improbable. One of the aspects about the Waynes that I thought was really interesting, they were almost antagonistic. And that's not a version of these characters we ever see in most versions, like the comics, the games, other films, TV shows. The Thomas and Martha Wayne are seen as these benevolent figures, they want to stay true to the city and make it the best version that it can be, and that's why Batman idolizes them so much in other versions. But here, it's very interesting. Obviously, at the end, they're shown to both get shot and die, but if they were to ever continue this story and somehow, it's almost like Batman's whole identity is built off a lie, because Thomas Wayne is such a mean person in this movie. He openly calls poor people in Gotham trash and clowns, which incites all the riots. And it's just a version we never see, and I never thought we'd ever see. And it's just very interesting to see from this perspective.
Yeah, I can understand that, because again, he's one of the top 1%, and from the way that he is portrayed, it seems as though he doesn't understand that other people have difficulties. For example, Arthur Fleck has to take care of his mother. He has no money to do so. He only has his one job as a clown that he can barely hold on to, and he actually loses. And he just slowly runs out of things. And Thomas Wayne doesn't understand how difficult a life can be for somebody that's working and living a life like that.
Oh yeah, I definitely feel that. Last sort of spoilerish thing we want to start on before we wrap it up here. One of the things that I didn't expect this movie to do, but yet also enhance the experience so much, was they gave a sort of an explanation for the reason the Joker laughs. It's a real medical condition. I believe it's called the pseudobulbar effect, where a person is forced to laugh, and it constricts their throat. And if you go look at videos out there, it's very similar to what Arthur Fleck does here, and that gave such a whole new dimension to this character. Every time he laughs, he's in a way of pain. I remember when they did the comedy club scene, just that hurt so much when he goes up there and he can't even get his first joke out because he's laughing involuntarily so hard, and it was just brutal to watch. It hurt so much just to watch that.
Yeah, and that's honestly one other thing that we can get into quickly is just his comedic ideas. Because when you look at some of the things that he talks about, for example, you can see him that one day or the one night he's working really hard in his notebook trying to write a joke, and his only idea of a joke from I don't know how long, but for what we can assume to be years of him going to comedy shows, taking notes, and all that, the best joke he can come up with is the worst part about having a mental illness is that people expect you to behave as if you don't.
Oh yeah, that also hit hard.
That it's such a rough moment because you kind of see farther into him, and here he is going to these comedy shows. He doesn't know when to laugh because his comedic ideas are so much different from everyone else's. And he's trying so hard to get people to find him funny.
Oh yeah, perfectly showed his disconnect. A comedian who was up there, he's saying his joke, the crowd laughs. Arthur's not laughing, but on the beat after, then he laughs. It just shows how disconnected he is from the rest of reality, and I found that so fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
Just all these extra layers. All right, so I believe that will conclude everything we have for spoilers. So if we want to go out and bring the rest of the crew back in. All right, so thank you, Joel, for coming on. This was a wonderful episode. I hope you all had fun here. Thank you all so much for watching tonight's episode. Be sure to follow TV10 on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And be sure to check out more exclusive content here on MyTV10. As always, I'm Andrew Vick, and I'll be seeing you real soon. Have a good night, everyone.